He wanted to have the seat by the window, but his shoulders slumped down in dismay when he saw that Taehyung already took it. "Can I please sit there instead?" he asked after gathering all the courage he had. Taehyung was already settled though. His seat belt was on and he was now sitting comfortably. He didn't reply, but instead, he looked at the seat beside him. "What's the difference between your seat and my seat?" he asked, just curious but coming out with a jerk tone again. "Just sit there." Jungkook didn't want to act all whiny and bratty, so he obediently sat down on his seat, but tears already gathered around his eyes and his lips trembled. He wanted the seat by the window. He wanted to watch the clouds while they fly. He wanted to see the cars and houses, as they become so small when they are finally up there. He wanted to see the birds. What if a rainbow appeared and he didn't get to see it because Taehyung was blocking his view, or worse, he didn't want to open the window? "Hey, are you crying?" Taehyung asked, disbelief laced in his voice as he heard Jungkook's quiet sniffles. "I want that seat," Jungkook tried, eagerly saying what he wanted and forgetting about who the person he was talking to was. All he knew was that he wanted that seat and he was going to get it. Forget about being shy and all. "Are you serious right now? You don't have to cry because of that," Taehyung said before remembering that his husband was indeed having his mood swings. He almost cursed himself for forgetting. All right. Calm down, we will exchange seats." Here, geez, well, it was just a start for him. God, he didn't know it would be this hard. Jungkook's mood swings were all over the place and he was almost at his peak. The first was about the seat by the window, which he let go of easily while thinking about the young girl's pregnancy. It was just normal for pregnant people to act like that, he thought, and so his annoyance was lifted. But then it continued endlessly. He got annoyed at the noisy kid in front of their seat that he complained about him for a whole 10 minutes and made sure that the parents heard him loud and clear too. Taehyung stopped him by giving him his headphones and playing some music for him to block the noises that the kid was providing. Jungkook fell asleep for a moment, but when he woke up, he was feeling so dizzy. Taehyung ordered water for him to keep him hydrated and it kinda helped. He was then annoyed at the person who occupied the toilet for too long. Then he got annoyed at himself for getting annoyed too quickly. Then when a flight attendant asked them if they wanted some food, the young girl almost threw a fit because was she looking at his husband seductively. But he already composed himself a little, so he stopped himself from doing something that he might regret later on. He didn't want to embarrass Taehyung any further. "I'm sorry I'm giving you so much trouble," Jungkook sighed as he apologetically looked at the older. Honestly, Taehyung thought that he was a real pain in the ass. But did he think that he was cute when he was annoyed too? Yes he did. "It's okay. It's your pregnancy hormones," he slowly said, tone almost melting Jungkook because of how soft he sounded. Then, he trailed off, nervously playing with his fingers. "Then what?" Taehyung asked, not wanting to stay curious about what he wanted to say. "Can I have a white chocolate please?" Taehyung was confused. How did white chocolate suddenly get into the conversation? He looked at the basket of food on the cart that the flight attendant was pushing, and saw different kinds of chocolate there. "I kinda crave it. Only if it's okay with you. I mean, you don't have to buy it for me, but..." Chuckles stopped Jungkook from stuttering out his sentences. He looked at Taehyung, who was now calling for the attendant's attention, and bought all kinds of white chocolate in the basket. "Here, just ask away if you want anything else." The smile on Jungkook's face was so wide it looked like it hurt. They went straight to the hotel after they landed and figured out that Namjoon checked them into one room. Like a real couple on their honeymoon. The room only has one bed, a king-sized one, and one bathroom for them to share. It has a balcony outside where you could see the sky above and the garden below. It was awkward for them to finally stay in one room together since they never did that before. They didn't complain though, since they didn't speak after finding out. They wanted to sleep and rest after the long flight, but were they going to share the same bed? For the first time? Taehyung never once took the couch to sleep on, but he would never want his pregnant husband to sleep there also. Might as well take the bed for themselves then. Rest first before unpacking, he said while lying down on the bed and patting the space beside him. The action he made got Jungkook so flustered that he couldn't hide the blush on his cheeks. He did what he said, lying beside the older stiffly but leaving a huge amount of space between them. They may have cuddled a few times, but sleeping on the same bed was a different story. The younger closed his eyes and tried to sleep even though he knew that with Taehyung beside him, it would be impossible to do so. After 30 minutes of trying and failing, he lifted himself from the bed and went to the balcony, calming himself from the excitement he was feeling by the mere thought of having to sleep beside his husband. He couldn't stop himself from smiling and expecting this vacation to do something about their relationship. Maybe this would pull them closer to each other, or maybe this would let them fully understand one another. He looked back to the bed where his husband was currently sleeping, his peaceful face being the first thing he noticed. He was not expecting so much from Taehyung. Just his acceptance was enough for him, but then the older showed him that he cared and he was patient. It all felt good. For once, he felt bad for feeling grateful to those who took their photos and spread them out, because if they hadn't done that, he wouldn't be experiencing this kind of feeling. This amazing feeling that only his husband could make him feel. Maybe he should start making Taehyung want him, but then he heard his own thoughts. He immediately felt guilty. Wanting Taehyung to be stuck with him for a long time just to satisfy his selfishness? How far could he go? What else could he do? Maybe his love for Taehyung wasn't good for the both of them after all. I will continue to love you then, just like before, without asking for anything in return. So let's say Taehyung kinda planned their whole 3 days in the Maldives. After hearing that Jungkook wished to go there so much when he was younger, Taehyung knew he needed to make the younger's experience there memorable. Plain walks under the night sky and strolls by the water were what he first thought, because let's face it, he was not the best at this kind of thing. Taking someone out was not his forte. He actually thought of doing what he would usually do when he needed help with decision-making, which was contacting his cousin, Namjoon, but his ego wouldn't let him do it. The trip was his idea, so if the date, should he even call it a date, was also going to be his, then Taehyung would just feel useless. So he started their first day with a heavy breakfast, which he of course ordered from the room service because he couldn't cook. They would need the energy for the tour. When the food finally came, he set it on the table before walking back to the bed, which was now only occupied by Jungkook. He crouched down to silently stare at his face, a thing he casually did when he was cuddled into him, asleep. Jungkook didn't know about this, but it has become a habit for the older. He knew he was a light sleeper, for only a single touch could wake him up, so Taehyung was always careful to not lay a finger on him, or else his small amount of time staring at Jungkook's adorable face would be cut shorter. Even though he wanted to pin the hair that covered his face behind his ear, he wouldn't do it. Even though he wanted to caress his cheeks slightly to feel the younger skin against his, he wouldn't do it. Because if he woke up, the courage that he got would quickly vanish. Taehyung wanted to stare at him a little bit longer, but he couldn't do that. This day was about Jungkook anyway, not him. So he tapped his shoulder lightly, and as he expected, he immediately woke up and smiled at him. They ate together, then took separate baths. They were literally above the water and on the beach, so it was expected of them to wear clothes suitable for the place. Taehyung wore plain grey shorts partnered with a black tank top. He sure looked different, and Jungkook kinda blushed a dark red after seeing him, but escaped embarrassment by running fast inside the bathroom to shower too. When he got out, it was Taehyung's turn to get stunned. After all, his husband, despite being pregnant, still looked sexy in that long white spaghetti strap dress. How could Jungkook even still maintain those curves when he was like a monster who would eat anything his eyes landed into? The moment they walked out of the room to finally get to the first plan for the day, Taehyung immediately felt eyes on them, on his husband. More so, he looked around and saw a couple of guys ogling at his wife, and jealousy quickly surged through his blood. His forehead creased and he frowned, not liking the way their eyes examined every curve that his husband had to offer. His hand acted on its own, pulling his husband by his waist closer to him, feeling their bodies collide, and that was enough to ensure himself. He saw the guys' faces scrunched in dismay and annoyance, but at least they diverted their eyes away from what was his. Jungkook didn't say anything when his husband did that. Instead, he bit his lips to prevent a huge smile from crawling into his lips. The beating of his heart was unbelievably fast, and the sparks he felt when their bodies met were so strong, he felt goosebumps. They went island hopping, wetting their feet in his dress a little on every island they went into.